Stella, the joyful sunshine of the Winx Club, princess of the solar kingdom of Solaria, and depending on who you ask, fairy of the sun, fairy of the shining sun, fairy of light, fairy of the sun and the moon, or fairy of the sun, the moon, and the stars. No matter the title, we know that Stella's element is light, specifically sunlight in the original timeline and general light from anything in the alternate timeline of World of Winx. But we know she's also the fairy of the moon, even though she barely ever uses the power. Or does she? Today I'm going to explain how I believe Stella's moon powers work and reveal how even though she doesn't use it often, she's been using it more than you probably thought. Before we can understand how Stella's moon powers work, we must first understand how the actual moon works in relation to the sun and the element of light. As you know, the moon itself doesn't have any light. We are able to see the moon glowing at night due to the sun itself. Moonlight is actually sunlight being reflected from the big star and redirected to us. If there was no sun, we would never see the moon. The moon is essentially an extension of the sun in terms of light and reflection. So how does that apply to the fairy of the shining sun? Well, Stella being the fairy of light itself comes into play here. We know she draws her powers from the light of the sun. In fact, she can barely survive without it.
Yours is the power of the stars, the sun, and the moon. Our magic is the opposite. You can't stay here very long.
This means that her moon powers are directly linked to her sunlight powers in some way. But how? Well, we've established that the moonlight is a reflection of the sun's light. So her moon powers must be in the form of a reflection of her sun powers. But wait, that doesn't make any sense, does it? If her moon powers are a reflection of her sun powers, isn't that just her sun powers? Exactly. Up until this point, we only ever acknowledge her moon spells based on their names. If she doesn't explicitly state moon or lunar,
Enchanted! Moon Shield!
we just assume it's a sun spell. But in reality, Stella's also been using reflection spells as a representation of her moon powers. How do these moon spells materialize? In the most Stella way possible, of course. Ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, Stella's been using her moon powers in the form of mirrors. Think about it. The moon reflects the light of the sun. Mirrors reflect, well, everything. So reflection-based spells from the fairy of light of course are going to manifest in the form of mirrors. Granted, she still doesn't use the powers often, but it's more than basically never. So what mirror spells does Stella actually have? Well, her moon powers take center stage mainly in Charmix and Harmonix, which also makes perfect sense because these are basically interim powers, so it's perfect for her secondary powers to manifest with them. Genius. Her whole charm mix is based on mirrors. The charm is in the shape of a handheld mirror.
Hey, what's happening? It's like a mirror. Wow, it's a mirror-shaped jewel. The Charmix knows me too well.
The markers on her back have the shape of the moon overpowering the sun, and her spells are all mirror-based.
Mirror flare! Okay, what now? Your mirror recharged yet? Not enough for 3. There's gotta be something we can do. The mirror's reflection was very strong. Let's try to use it as a signal flare. All right. Reflecting mirror!
They were basically telling us this is her moon form all along. The only other form where her moon powers get to shine is in Harmonix. Shining Mirror, which is one of her best spells by the way, is the manifestation of an actual mirror that redirects an attack that hits the reflection back to the enemy. Just like the moon redirects the sun's light to Earth as a reflection. Come on guys, you cannot tell me I'm just making this up.
Shining mirror!
Now that we've got that covered, I also wanted to touch upon why I believe Stella doesn't use this power very often. Look, Stella is beautiful and she knows it. She's never met a mirror she didn't love. And why would she? She's drop dead gorgeous, a beauty queen through and through. But I believe Stella has a complicated relationship with mirrors. It seems like every time she is faced with an inner struggle, a portion of the struggle manifests itself in the form of a mirror, or at least a reflection. In that iconic episode from season 1, where they all had a nightmare via the monster, her nightmare began with her looking at herself into a mirror, just before the dream went into her anxiety about her parents' divorce. When she got turned into a monster, it was the mirror of truth that was needed to break the curse. On the trial for the Water Stars, it was again a mirror that was used to showcase what she had to sacrifice. And then when she had to face an illusion to get the gems during the Sirenix quest, her hallucination was, well, herself. Not quite a mirror, but still, yet another reflection of herself that she had to face. Are you seeing a pattern? Stella loves a mirror, but she hates a reflection. That's why she doesn't use her moon powers, aka her mirror powers, very often. A mirror shows you what's there, but a reflection shows you the truth that the naked eye can't see. Her beauty is her mask, and behind that mask, Stella hides all her insecurities. Be it about her parents' divorce, her struggle with her self-worth and thinking people only like her because she's pretty, or her doubts about achieving her dreams. Just like the sun, Stella shines through with her cheerful personality that lights up a room. But just like the moon, that light is used to mask her darkness that would otherwise be center stage. The sun lights up the moon so that the darkness won't prevail. Stella remains with a sunny disposition so that her darkness won't prevail. Stella isn't just the fairy of the sun and the moon. Stella is the sun and the moon.